Hey everyone, it's Lisa Ann Pinkerton for Women in Cleantech and Sustainability. Got a special treat for you, Christian Roselund, who is editor of the Current magazine over at the Rocky Mountain Institute. And he wrote a really fascinating article about COVID-19 climate risk and mitigation and resilience. And he's going to be one of the top guests at our Earth Day webinar that's happening on April 22nd at 5 o'clock. Click on the link in the description here to get your ticket. Welcome, Christian, to our little promo video.
Thanks for having me, Lisa.
So this article you wrote, what inspired this topic for you?
Well, the COVID-19 pandemic hit, and suddenly talking just about climate wasn't cutting it. Suddenly you're in the middle of a disaster. People don't want to hear about the work that you're doing on climate. They want to solve the problem that's in front of them right now. And I think that this is not a unique circumstance. But just to step back a second, I should note that this was really done with the team at Rocky Mountain Institute, and Ned Harvey in particular, who's the managing director of our industry program. A lot of these are his ideas that came out of a conversation that Ned and I had, and so we co-wrote it. So I think a lot of credit here in terms of the deep thinking about risk and the types of risk goes to Ned.
And so you mentioned here that the 21st century is basically going to be a century about risk mitigation.
Absolutely. So, one of the things I think that when those of us who've been paying attention to climate change, when we saw COVID-19 hit, one of the things that we all thought was, oh, well, this shares a lot of characteristics with the disasters that we're seeing as a result of climate change. And this fundamentally comes down to complexity. These are complex disasters. So COVID-19 is not just a health disaster. COVID-19 is a health disaster that's sparking possibly a deep recession, possibly worse, but it has these tremendous impacts on industry. We have the lowest oil use that we've had in, decades. As a result of this, it has tremendous impacts on the larger economy. We had the crash of the S&P 500. We've got more people out of work right now in America than any time since the Great Depression. And so these crises that we're seeing in the 21st century are not simple crises. They're complex and they have a lot of layers. And that's true of COVID-19. And it's also true of the crises that we've had that are spurred by climate change. And unfortunately, it's true of the crises that we're going to have as a result of climate change.
I love what you're talking about here related to, because climate change is often so far into the future. It's abstract, and the human mind really just wants to deal with the problems at the moment. And what the pandemic is providing us is a window, like you said, a window to what we could expect if we are not paying attention and mitigating the effects of climate change now.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, unfortunately, in some ways, the ship has left the harbor, and we're having disasters due to climate change. We have the wildfires in Australia. We have the fires in California. We have the increased rate of hurricanes and the severity of hurricanes in the Caribbean and in the U.S. South. These things have climate components. Certainly no event like this is entirely the result of climate, but they all have a degree to which they are influenced by climate. And this is simply going to happen more. The question is, how severe will they be? And that's what we have the opportunity to intervene on, is the severity of climate disasters and the frequency. And so for us, Rocky Mountain Institute has always worked not just on low carbon solutions, but on resilient solutions. Our work has always been about resilience. So this was an opportunity for us to talk about the resilience aspect of our work. Because in the 21st century, it's not good enough to simply mitigate the future crises. We have to deal with the crises of the now as well. And there's a way to do it where you can deal with the crises of the now while helping to mitigate future crises. And so that's what we're focused on, is that combination of resilience and mitigation.
Fantastic, Christian. This is great. And so this is what we're going to talk about at our event on April 22nd at 5 o'clock. It's a virtual panel for the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. So Christian, thank you very much for being our guest and for joining me here today. And I'm looking very much forward to this event next week.